You arrive in a quiet space where intention first stirs, a place beyond rushing agendas and urgent doings. You are invited to breathe with awareness, to sense the soft gravity of purpose pulling through your chest and into the edges of perception. You are asked to listen to the subtle hum that indicates readiness, a low frequency that signals the beginning of true alignment. Allow a kind, curious attention to settle on what matters most, as though opening a door within. Notice how clarity arises when noise is let go and simple attention is given space to expand. This moment is the seedbed for accelerated change, where vast trajectories can begin from a single clear point. Let this stillness guide the understanding that intention is not wishful thinking, but an orienting signal for energy. You learn that intention is an oriented field, a luminous vector that points toward creation rather than a mere mental note. You sense that when your focus aligns with a clear target, the surrounding energy responds, reconfiguring into possibility. You notice how intention carries quality, clarity, conviction, and feeling, and that quality shapes the speed and shape of outcomes. You are encouraged to distinguish intention from desire by noting depth and direction rather than intensity alone. As attention refines, your internal compass becomes precise, and opportunities begin to echo that precision back to you. This reveals that intention is both map and magnet. It outlines direction while attracting corresponding energy. Prepare now to explore how this inner orientation relates to the fabric of reality and the leaps that can follow. You're asked to imagine reality as a responsive field, where observation and intent alter probabilities rather than just passive scenery. You sense that what appears inevitable often shifts when attention moves with precision and feeling, opening alternative branches of possibility. You are guided to see that acceleration occurs when intention intersects with energetic readiness, like tuning an instrument to resonate with a higher overtone. Notice how a change in inner posture can reroute external currents, making unexpected pathways accessible. This understanding dissolves helplessness and replaces it with the recognition that influence is possible when alignment is present. Allow this concept to settle. Your directed attention is an active participant in shaping outcomes. From here, the practical steps of clarifying goals will unfold naturally into practice. You begin to feel the invitation to accelerate, not by forcing speed, but by shifting how energy is used and directed toward your aims. You are reminded that quantum leaps are not sudden miracles, but emergent leaps created through sustained alignment and timely modulation of focus. You are encouraged to adopt a patient intensity, steady presence combined with deliberate high-quality intention. As attention refines, small adjustments create non-linear results, like turning a key that unlocks a new corridor of opportunity. This chapter's close brings the sense that possibility is always available when intention is clarified and energy coheres. Carry this promise into the next chapter, where the nature of the field itself will be explored more deeply. Allow curiosity to guide the next step toward understanding. You prepare to become a clearer vessel for manifestation, attending to the inner space where signals are both sent and received. You are asked to soften any tension that tightens the channel, recognizing that resistance muffles the clarity of intention. You feel a readiness to open, to let coherent energy flow without blockade, like a river removing stones in its path. As attention turns inward to refine receptivity, the external mirror starts to realign, reflecting opportunities more attuned to your aim. This preparation is practical and gentle. It asks for presence, honesty, and willingness to clear what no longer serves. With this inner clearing, momentum becomes possible, and the work of alignment deepens in the next chapter. You're introduced to the idea that observation shapes outcomes, not through mysticism, but as a practical principle of attention and measurement. You discover that the field of possibility responds differently when attention is focused, bringing certain potentials into sharper relief. You notice how directed observation collapses ambiguity into direction, like tuning a radio to a single station amid static. You are guided to use this principle intentionally, focusing with clarity to reduce the noise of competing impulses. This practice helps you steward energy toward the pathways that matter most to your goals. As the field becomes more responsive, your movements feel less like pushing and more like channeling a current. Prepare to discover the metaphoric physics that inform how intention and energy interrelate. You learn that influence is not confined to linear proximity, and that resonance can span apparent distances when alignment is present. You sense that synchrony occurs when frequency matches across scales, making related phenomena converge even from afar. You are invited to trust that energetic coherence creates bridges between separated events, revealing otherwise hidden support and timing. As attention becomes a steady signal, the environment tends to harmonize with that signature, aligning opportunities in unexpected places. This understanding encourages you to expand the scope of what feels possible and to include non-obvious resources. Let this widen your sense of available pathways as the journey continues into practical application. You are guided to view choices as selectors among many potential lines rather than as single, irreversible events. You discover that each choice shifts the probability landscape subtly, and that consistent choices create stronger currents toward preferred outcomes. You are encouraged to make choices aligned with the highest clarity available, knowing that coherence compounds across time. This perspective reduces the pressure of any single decision, while emphasizing the cumulative power of directional actions. As patterns of aligned choice emerge, the system begins to favor those trajectories, making leaps more accessible. Allow this approach to translate into daily practices that compound into momentum. You discover that action is most effective when it resonates with inner clarity rather than being frenetic or reactive. You are invited to tune actions so they harmonize with your felt intention, like fingers finding the right harmonic on a string. You notice that aligned acts are amplifiers. Each one increases the overall field coherence and invites supporting events. This redefines productivity as resonance rather than mere output, making each step more meaningful and energetically economical. As resonance increases, the system begins to self-reinforce in ways that look like acceleration. Carry this understanding forward as a bridge between insight and embodiment. You are encouraged to translate these metaphoric scientific principles into simple, repeatable practices that shape lived experience. You notice that concrete routines grounded in clarity and feeling alter probability in practical, measurable ways. You are guided to experiment with small shifts in attention and track correlated changes in outcomes, creating your own feedback loop. This iterative approach makes the abstract tangible and empowers you to co-create with the field rather than passively wait. As experiments accumulate, patterns of effective alignment reveal themselves and provide reliable methods for acceleration. This sets the stage for clarifying big goals with both poetic imagination and pragmatic steps. You are invited to name a singular, compelling goal that acts as your North Star rather than scattering focus across many distractions. You notice how a single, clarified aim aligns energy more efficiently than multiple vague ambitions. You are encouraged to frame that goal with specificity: who, what, when, and why, so that intention carries a precise signature. When the target is clear, the field receives a decisive signal that other forces can tune into. This clarity reduces friction and invites supporting structures to appear. Hold this North Star as the guiding reference for your choices and practices. The journey now moves into refining that clarity into emotionally resonant terms. You learn to infuse the goal with the feeling of its completion, recognizing that emotion is the energetic fuel that accelerates manifestation. You are guided to vividly imagine how life will feel once the aim is realized, attending to sensory detail and emotional texture. You notice that this felt experience aligns your physiology and nervous system with the future you seek, creating coherence between mind and body. This practice turns abstract goals into embodied realities that the field can respond to more readily. Allow feeling to become a calibration tool that informs your daily choices and actions. From here, the translation of that feeling into practical milestones becomes clear. You are guided to set measurable milestones that honor both ambition and realistic pacing, creating a map of progress toward the North Star. You notice how time frames provide a rhythm for intentional focus without constricting possibility into impatience. You are encouraged to choose markers that are both inspiring and achievable, so momentum can build through repeated success. This approach allows for course correction while maintaining directional integrity, preventing distraction from eroding alignment. As milestones are met, confidence grows and the field begins to favor further movement in the same direction. Use these markers to maintain clarity while remaining open to inspired detours. You refine the language used to describe your goal so that it contains concrete sensory verbs and measurable outcomes rather than vague adjectives. You notice how precise language sharpens the energetic signature of the aim and reduces interpretive drift. You are encouraged to write the goal in present tense active phrasing that implies embodiment and realistic steps. This linguistic clarity becomes a tool for the nervous system and the field to coordinate action and support. When descriptions are crisp, opportunities and aligned feedback appear with greater clarity as well. Carry this sharpened language into the practices that will make the goal habitual and lived. You settle into a posture of committed curiosity where dedication meets openness, allowing experimentation without rigid attachment to one path. You are reminded that commitment is not inflexibility, but a steady orientation to a worthy aim combined with willingness to learn. You notice that curiosity keeps the nervous system receptive to new information and unanticipated supports. This balance fosters adaptive momentum, enabling swift redirection when better routes become visible. With curiosity anchoring commitment, the process becomes both resilient and creative. Prepare to translate this clarity into embodied, energetic practices next. You are reminded that the physical body is the instrument through which intention is played and felt, and that its state determines resonance quality. You notice how posture, breath, and nervous system tone influence the clarity and amplitude of the signal you send. You are invited to adopt simple somatic practices that bring coherence between heart, breath, and attention. This alignment tunes the body to be a receptive antenna rather than a closed fortress, allowing energy to circulate efficiently. When the instrument is cared for, the field hears a clear note and responds with fidelity. This chapter guides practical calibration techniques to prepare your system for magnified results. You learn to treat emotions as navigational signals, not obstacles, recognizing that each emotion carries specific energetic color and momentum. You notice how cultivating joy, curiosity and calm raises the vibrational baseline and increases alignment with desired outcomes. You are invited to notice and welcome lower emotions without identification, using them as data for necessary inner work rather than resistance. This approach preserves emotional integrity while preventing reactivity from fracturing focus. As emotional calibration improves, the quality of manifesting shifts from effortful striving to graceful co-creation. Carry this understanding forward into practical daily rituals that sustain coherent feeling states. You are introduced to the concept of energy hygiene, simple practices that remove lingering interference and optimize clarity. You notice that decluttering attention, limiting intrusive inputs, and setting clear energetic boundaries preserves momentum. You're encouraged to implement easy rituals such as short focus resets, sensory fasting, and space-clearing routines. These habits maintain a fertile inner environment for intention to take root and grow without being overwhelmed. As hygiene becomes routine, subtle energy leaks close and coherence strengthens across your daily life. This creates the stable ground on which quantum leaps can reliably occur. You are guided to use breath as the bridge between inner states and outer action, tuning rhythm to regulate arousal and focus. You notice how simple breath patterns can shift anxiety into centered readiness and clarity into calm intentionality. You're invited to find a breathing cadence that supports both clarity and sustained effort, integrating it into moments of decision and practice. This rhythmic coherence stabilizes the nervous system and amplifies the impact of aligned intention. When breath becomes a habitual ally, energy flows with less friction and greater direction. The next scene will translate these foundations into daily practice structures. You learn the dance of grounding and expansion, where rooted presence supports the capacity to hold wide vision without dissipation. You notice how rituals that anchor the body and attention allow expansive imagination to be sustainable rather than scattered. You are invited to alternate practices that solidify presence with those that open perspective, creating a resilient loop of embodiment and vision. This interplay ensures that leaps are integrated and not merely transient bursts of enthusiasm. By honoring both the earthward and skyward tendencies, alignment becomes both practical and poetic. Carry these energetic foundations into the ritual designs that will accelerate your progress. You begin to honor the power of micro-habits, simple repeated actions that, over time, compound into transformative momentum. You notice how tiny, consistent choices, aligned with intention, reduce the friction of progress and make large goals approachable. You are encouraged to select practices that create visible progress and feel nourishing rather than punitive. This reframes discipline as gentle consistency rather than willful strain, inviting sustainable acceleration. As these small habits accumulate, they create a landscape where leaps are not abrupt breaks, but emergent features of steady growth. Carry this appreciation forward into designing habit stacks that support your North Star. You are guided to create short, repeatable rituals that center attention and restore coherent intention throughout the day. You notice that rituals act as anchors, bringing the nervous system back into alignment when distraction accumulates. You are invited to design rituals that suit your rhythm, morning clarity practices, midday resets, and evening integrations that consolidate learning. These acts of repeated alignment help maintain the signal strength of your intention over time. When rituals are both simple and meaningful, they become automatic channels for sustained progress. The next steps involve structuring time and energy to support these rituals without friction. You learn to stack focused time blocks around your highest impact activities, protecting windows where deep alignment can occur. You notice that uninterrupted, coherent effort often yields disproportionately large returns compared to scattered multitasking. You are encouraged to create predictable routines that guard these time stacks, signaling to your environment and nervous system that priority has been given. This structuring reduces cognitive load and fosters sustained resonance with the goal. As time stacks become habitual, your capacity for concentrated, aligned action expands. Use this technique to multiply the effect of each intentional practice. You are introduced to the value of quick feedback loops that reveal what works and what needs tuning in real time. You notice how short experiments with clear measurements accelerate learning and reduce wasted effort. You are invited to track minimal, meaningful metrics that reflect both energetic alignment and tangible progress. This iterative approach converts intuition into refined technique, allowing for agile course corrections. As feedback informs practice, momentum compounds through smarter, more aligned choices. Prepare to leverage these loops for amplification in the coming chapter. You integrate repetition as the means by which embodied knowledge and alignment become automatic and available under pressure. You notice that repeated successful alignment imprints cues into your nervous system that make coherence the default. You are encouraged to repeat core practices until they become second nature, freeing conscious attention for creative navigation rather than maintenance. This anchoring ensures that high-frequency states are accessible even in challenge, enabling leaps when opportunity appears. As repetition matures into habit, the system demonstrates readiness for larger leaps. Carry this commitment to disciplined gentleness into the work of removing resistance. You begin by naming the resistance honestly and without judgment, recognizing these are barriers formed by old patterns and unmet needs. You notice how naming reduces the charge around a block and brings it into a field of manageable attention. You are encouraged to list recurring doubts, fears, and habits that sap energy and divert focus. This act of clear inventory creates a map for targeted clearing rather than diffuse blame. As clarity about blocks grows, the path forward becomes more precise and actionable. Prepare to practice gentle techniques for transforming these resistances into allies. You are guided to approach resistance with compassionate curiosity, asking what function each barrier served and what it now asks to be seen. You notice how compassion dissolves reactive defense and opens space for sustainable change. You are encouraged to hold the paradox that resistance both protects and limits, honoring its intention while choosing a new response. This compassionate inquiry reframes inner obstacles as signals for graduated transformation rather than permanent flaws. As barriers soften, energy once tied up in defense becomes available for aligned action. From here, practical clearing techniques will be introduced to shift stuck energy. You are offered simple, energetic clearing methods, breath cycles, movement, and focused visualizations to release inertia and recalibrate the field. You notice how even brief clearing rituals create immediate shifts in clarity and possibility. You are encouraged to experiment with practices that feel enlivening, selecting what resonates and discarding what does not. This trial and measure approach ensures that clearing becomes personalized and effective. As energetic blockages dissipate, the flow of aligned momentum becomes noticeably freer and more potent. Carry these clearing habits into daily maintenance to prevent reaccumulation. You learn to rewrite limiting narratives by replacing them with empowering, evidence-based stories that reflect observed progress and capacity. You notice how small story edits, reinforced through practice and proof, shift identity and unlock new behavioral possibilities. You are encouraged to collect micro-evidence of success to support the new narrative until it becomes believable. This process changes the default interpretation of events and opens you to bolder choices. As the inner story rewires, resistance loses its authority and your field strengthens. Prepare to use this renewed story to amplify momentum and invite synchronicity. You are guided to build external supports that mirror inner clearing, such as trusted allies, boundaries, and practical systems that reduce relapse. You notice how community and infrastructure make sustained change easier by sharing responsibility and normalizing alignment. You are encouraged to identify specific supports that fit your rhythm, mentors, accountability, or environmental adjustments. These structures take the pressure off willpower and make momentum more resilient. As supports multiply, the system becomes less fragile and more capable of holding expansive intention. With resistance addressed, the field is primed for acceleration techniques ahead. You are invited to watch how small aligned actions compound into accelerating resonance that produces outsized effects over time. You notice that when coherent habits are linked, each one reinforces the others, creating a self-sustaining engine of progress. You are guided to intentionally connect practices so they feed one another rather than exist in isolation. This approach multiplies impact, turning steady efforts into swift forward motion. As resonance compounds, opportunities that once seemed distant become accessible and obvious. Hold this compounding principle as a key tool for amplifying your growth trajectory. You learn to recognize synchronicities as confirmations from the field that alignment is deepening and pathways are opening. You notice patterns, chance meetings, and timely resources that appear when attention is steady and clear. You are encouraged to acknowledge these signs, allowing them to reinforce confidence and curiosity rather than magical thinking. This attentiveness draws more aligning events into view and strengthens trusting engagement with the process. As synchronicities accumulate, movement feels more effortless and supported. Use these cues as feedback to fine-tune focus and step more boldly. You are introduced to specific acceleration techniques such as Gestalt prioritization, energy stacking, and strategic surrender that catalyze progress. You notice how combining emotionally resonant visualization with decisive action can shortcut prolonged trial and error. You are encouraged to experiment with focused sprints followed by recalibration, leveraging intensity in manageable bursts. This strategy increases velocity without burning out your system, preserving resilience while encouraging speed. As these techniques are practiced, the threshold for quantum leaps lowers and more ambitious outcomes become reachable. Carry this practical toolkit into the next scenes for amplification strategies that fit your cadence. You learn to scale efforts in ways that preserve presence and authenticity rather than diluting meaning in pursuit of growth. You notice how sustainable expansion honors foundational practices while adding capacity thoughtfully. You are encouraged to establish scaling principles, what to multiply, what to protect, and what to let go, so growth remains aligned with core values. This intentionality prevents drift and keeps momentum healthy over long arcs. As scaling becomes a conscious act, acceleration feels integrated rather than invasive. Prepare to measure progress through refined metrics in the next chapter. You are invited to recognize and ride peaks of momentum with agility, using them to create lasting infrastructure rather than fleeting wins. You notice how strategic investments during high-energy periods yield durable benefits for future stability and expansion. You are encouraged to capture lessons and resources when flow is strong so they can support lower energy times. This practice of strategic harvesting turns ephemeral momentum into sustained advantage. As the wave is navigated skillfully, confidence and capability expand hand in hand with opportunity. Keep this skillful riding as part of your ongoing creative mastery. You are invited to expand measurement beyond purely linear metrics like speed and quantity, including qualitative indicators of alignment and resilience. You notice that emotional coherence, ease of action, and relational resonance are valid and powerful metrics for quantum growth. You are encouraged to track both hard outcomes and soft signals so that acceleration is measured holistically. This integrated approach prevents misleading conclusions that arise from focusing only on external markers. As a result, progress looks more like maturation than mere accumulation. Use this broadened view to create a dashboard that reflects true evolutionary gains. You build a simple resonance dashboard that blends measurable outcomes with felt state markers to reveal authentic momentum. You notice how including heart rate variability, stress levels, and alignment checks offers insight into readiness for acceleration. You are encouraged to choose a few meaningful, easy-to-track indicators rather than an overwhelming list, ensuring consistent use. This rhythm of measurement becomes a compass for refining practice and timing high-leverage moves. As the dashboard matures, patterns of alignment and growth become visible and actionable. Use this tool to make wise, timely decisions about when to push and when to integrate. You learn to distinguish signal from noise, sensibly filtering inputs that distract from directional clarity and prioritizing feedback that genuinely informs your aims. You notice that not all data is equally valuable. Some inputs amplify clarity, while others create confusion and reactive cycles. You are encouraged to design filters, simple criteria that qualify what deserves attention and what can be parked. This practice preserves your system's bandwidth for high-impact alignment and decision-making. As filters improve, the dashboard yields clearer guidance and less ambiguity. Carry this discernment into choices about investment, partnership, and creative focus. You are invited to acknowledge and celebrate nonlinear wins that may appear as sudden shifts, surprising alignments, or profound internal changes. You notice that these quantum leaps often arrive unpredictably and are amplified by earlier steady alignment. You are encouraged to record and honor such moments as evidence of the field's responsiveness, reinforcing the new story that alignment works. This celebration becomes fuel for further effort, boosting confidence and deepening trust in the process. As small and large wins are celebrated, momentum is psychologically and energetically sustained. Use celebration as a strategic practice to cement change. You adopt an iterative mindset where measurement informs adaptive refinement rather than rigid adherence to a fixed plan. You notice that minor adjustments based on honest feedback often produce disproportionate improvements. You are encouraged to run short experiments, learn quickly, and iterate with humility and curiosity. This process honors the intelligence of the field and your capacity to learn from outcomes. As iteration becomes habitual, your system becomes increasingly sophisticated and responsive. Carry this ethic of refinement into long-term stewardship of goals and growth. You are guided to translate breakthroughs into stable habit by weaving new practices into daily life until they become second nature. You notice that permanence is less about rigid repetition and more about integrating practices into identity and environment. You are encouraged to scaffold changes with contextual cues, social supports, and reminder systems that embed new patterns. As new practices become habitual, the energetic landscape itself shifts, making advanced possibilities the default rather than the exception. This integration makes future leaps easier and more sustainable. Prepare to embody these changes with rituals that honor the transformation. You learn that expanding capacity often requires an identity upgrade, stepping into who is capable of holding larger aims and outcomes. You notice that identity shifts are best supported by repeated experiences of competence and small evidences of success. You are encouraged to adopt identity statements that align with observed behavior and to act in ways that reinforce the new self-concept. This alignment between action and identity accelerates the habituation of higher-level capacities. As identity changes, choices align more naturally with expanded goals. Use this insight to gently embody the new possibilities that have been cultivated. You are offered embodiment rituals that transform intellectual insight into lived reality through movement, breath, and sensory anchoring. You notice how rituals that engage the body create stronger memory traces than cognitive rehearsal alone. You are encouraged to choose rituals that feel resonant, slow movement, breath cycles, tactile anchors, and practice them regularly. These rituals embed alignment into muscle memory and nervous system habit, making presence accessible under stress. As embodiment deepens, intuition and instinct begin to favor aligned choices naturally. Carry these rituals forward as daily companions on the path of growth. You learn to choose community intentionally, recognizing that the people and systems around you reflect and amplify your energy and direction. You notice how supportive circles accelerate embodiment by providing feedback, modeling, and shared resources. You are encouraged to seek communities that hold standards of growth, curiosity, and care, where accountability and inspiration coexist. This relational support makes new capacities visible and trustworthy. As community becomes part of the ecosystem, growth is both faster and more resilient. Use these relational mirrors to sustain high-frequency states and practice generosity of energy. You adopt the role of steward for your own evolution, caring for the system that supports your aims rather than treating growth as a one-off achievement. You notice that stewardship involves maintaining practices, renewing commitments, and adapting to new seasons with compassion. You are encouraged to build long-term rhythms that allocate energy for replenishment, celebration, and recalibration. This steady tending prevents burnout and preserves fertile conditions for continued quantum leaps. As stewardship becomes habitual, your trajectory shifts from episodic bursts to ongoing expansion. Carry this stewardship into a life that honors continuous creation. You are guided to choose a compact set of daily practices that sustain mastery, balancing clarity, energy, and action within a realistic framework. You notice that consistency in a few high-impact rituals outperforms a scattered attempt at many small ones. You are encouraged to refine and protect these core practices, making them the foundation of your creative life. As these practices integrate, the capacity for deliberate co-creation deepens and becomes habitual. This is how quantum creation becomes a lifestyle rather than an occasional achievement. Use this structure to hold both bold aims and tender care. You learn to nurture creative courage, The willingness to experiment, risk, and trust in the field's responsiveness despite uncertainty. You notice that courage grows from accumulated evidence of small risk-taking and compassionate recovery when things don't go as planned. You are encouraged to frame risk as information-rich feedback rather than as final verdicts about worth or capacity. This mindset loosens the grip of fear and invites more daring, high-leverage moves. As creative courage increases, larger leaps become not only possible, but natural. Carry this courage forward into bold, aligned action. You are invited to orient evolution toward contribution, seeing acceleration not only as personal gain, but as adding value to others and the systems around you. You notice how contribution amplifies the field by creating reciprocal support and opening channels of mutual growth. You are encouraged to ask how goals can be shaped to serve broader good, which in turn accelerates alignment through social resonance. This generative perspective multiplies impact and deepens meaning, making quantum leaps more satisfying and sustainable. As contribution becomes central, success includes the flourishing of others. Use this ethic to expand the scope and richness of your aims. You remain mindful of humility and curiosity as essential companions on the path of creation, acknowledging that the field is vast and unexpected lessons continue to arrive. You notice how curiosity keeps the system open to new inputs and prevents stagnation, while humility preserves connection to reality and to others. You are encouraged to hold accomplishments lightly, allowing for continuous learning and refinement. This balance prevents complacency and invites ongoing evolution. As curiosity and humility guide choices, life becomes a dynamic experiment in wise co-creation. Carry these traits forward as safeguards for sustained growth. You are offered an invitation to live as a deliberate co-creator, choosing practices that align intention and energy to catalyze quantum leaps toward meaningful aims. You notice that this way of life is accessible through consistent small choices, honest inquiry, and compassionate stewardship of your inner ecosystem. You are encouraged to begin or deepen the practices that resonate most, trusting that alignment will multiply into tangible outcomes. This invitation is not to perform perfectly, but to show up with presence, curiosity, and committed action. As you accept, the field responds with unexpected support, opening doors to new magnitudes of possibility. Step forward with gentle courage, knowing that aligned momentum awaits.